A fleet of colossal alien warships hovered silently above Earth, their lights pulsing like ominous beacons in the dark sky. For centuries, the Deathworld Alliance had believed itself invincible, until their last stronghold fell, and a desperate plea rippled across the galaxy. Now, only one fragile planet stood between extinction and survival: Earth. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never been this crowded at 3 a.m. Delegates clutched tablets displaying real-time footage of 17 massive ships in geosynchronous orbit. Most had been awakened from deep sleep, their formal attire hastily assembled, eyes wide with disbelief. President Sofia Cardenas of Argentina, chairing the extended session, gripped the podium with white knuckles. These broadcasts are being transmitted globally, in every known language. We need to decide, now, whether to believe them. Major General Nisha Cortez stepped forward, her military uniform pristine despite the hour. Madam President, Joint Space Command detected no weapons targeting Earth, but their technology is beyond our comprehension. We should assume they could obliterate us at will. On the central display, a being with 4 muscular arms and bark-like skin that rippled with visible emotion began to speak. His name was Elder Marath, and his voice carried the weight of 14 Alliance worlds already lost. "People of Earth," he began, his translator perfectly matching the movement of his mouth slits. "We are the Deathworld Alliance. Your world faces annihilation from an enemy calling themselves the Ascendancy. Parallel humans bent on galaxy-wide conquest. We come to you now as refugees and allies. Grant us sanctuary and your strategic genius, and we will share technology that can save your species. Refuse, and soon, you will stand alone." A blue, black feathered figure moved beside Marath, Ambassador Kaio of the Avan species. His plumage rippled with stress as he explained. "The Ascendancy has already conquered 24 of our worlds. Their ships are approaching your solar system. You have perhaps 5 of your Earth years before they arrive." The Serpentine Commander Hessa, her iridescent scales reflecting the harsh light of the transmission chamber, added, "We were 17 Deathworld species united for 2 millennia. Now we are scattered. Our final defensive perimeter breached just days ago. Deathworlds," someone whispered. "Planets so hostile to life that evolution produces only the most adaptable species." Morath explained. "Your Earth was classified as such. Your creativity, your adaptability under pressure, these are qualities we desperately need." President Cardenas's eyes narrowed. "How can we trust these claims? How do we know you're not the threat?" In response, Morath transmitted high-definition imagery of ruined worlds, oceans boiling, cities reduced to ash, entire continents blackened. More disturbing were intercepted communications from the Ascendancy fleet, humans speaking accented English, discussing resource extraction protocols for Earth. "Is this some kind of trick?" the Chinese delegate demanded. Commander Hessa's scales darkened. "If only it were—" For 96 hours, the debate raged. Global protests erupted, some demanding the aliens be shot down, others welcoming potential saviors. Religious leaders called for calm. Military strategists ran endless simulations. On the 4th day, with evidence mounting and orbital scans detecting distant anomalies at the edge of the solar system, Earth made its choice. The Earth Defense Initiative Treaty was ratified by 142 nations. Its terms were simple. The alliance would share technology equally with all signing nations, with strict prohibitions against using advanced tech for Earth internal conflicts. In return, Earth would provide strategic minds, scientists, and eventually soldiers to fight alongside the alliance. "If we refuse," President Cardenas had said during the final vote, "our world stands alone. We must either die proud or survive wiser." And so began the most rapid technological uplift in human history. Alliance nanomedicine revolutionized healthcare within months. Cancer rates plummeted. Lifespans doubled, and with zero-point energy reactors replacing fossil fuels, the geopolitical map transformed overnight. Former energy cartels collapsed. Renewable technology companies soared. The first quantum shuttle service between Earth and the Moon activated just 18 months after first contact. But these advancements came with heavy costs. Lieutenant Hussein Ibarra stood at the observation window of Selena Outpost, watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon. At 25, he was the youngest tactical officer to graduate from the newly established Alliance Earth War Academy. His algorithm for predicting Ascendancy fleet movements had proven 23% more effective than traditional Alliance models. "Beautiful, isn't it?" A voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see Dr. Maya Tira, the Japanese-Brazilian geneticist heading the Neural Enhancement Initiative. "It is," Hussein agreed, fighting the familiar feeling of unease around her. At 45, Maya had become the face of humanity's technological acceleration, and its most controversial figure. "The latest implant tests show promising results," she said, examining his reaction. "Volunteers process tactical data 40% faster, with minimal side effects." Hussein touched the small scar behind his ear, the mark of his own first-generation neural implant. "Define minimal, doctor." "Nothing permanent. Some users report mild memory gaps, occasional disorientation." She leaned against the railing. "Hussein, we're running out of time. The Ascendancy will be here in 3 years. We need every advantage." "At what cost?" He gestured toward the habitat modules, where thousands of Alliance refugees now lived, alongside human personnel. "I've seen the looks from the Taurians when they see our implants. Elder Morath believes we're moving too fast." Maya's expression hardened. "Elder Morath comes from a species that evolved over millions of years to survive acid oceans and electrical storms. We don't have that luxury." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. Both their neural interfaces pinged simultaneously, a priority summons to the command center. Commander Hesse waited for them, her serpentine body coiled tightly in stress posture. "We've detected dimensional fluctuations near Mars. The Ascendancy is coming earlier than projected." The next 2 years passed in a blur of accelerated preparations. The lunar base expanded into a sprawling complex of geodesic domes and underground bunkers. The first Martian settlement, Colony Alpha, rose from the red dust, housing both human colonists and Alliance refugees. Lieutenant Hussein Ibarra became Major Hussein Ibarra, overseeing the tactical training of thousands. Dr. Maya Tira's Neural Enhancement Initiative expanded despite growing protests on Earth about technological colonization. And through it all, the distant signals grew stronger, the Ascendancy fleet, approaching inexorably. In 2035, the first tragedy struck. A routine training simulation at Selena Outpost went catastrophically wrong when the AI controlling Ascendancy attack patterns evolved faster than human or Alliance doctrine could predict. Simulated ships died by the hundreds. Tactical officers watched helplessly as their commands became useless. "Pattern-breaking protocols ineffective," a panicked voice called over the command channel. "The AI anticipates every counter." Hussein, observing from the back of the room, noticed something strange. The AI wasn't just following logical progressions. It was improvising, like a musician. "It's playing jazz," he whispered, then louder. "It's improvising like jazz. All ships, abandon formation protocols. Each vessel choose random vectors, no patterns." For 3 heart-stopping seconds, the simulation lurched. Then the displays flashed. "Victory!" The room fell silent. Commander Hesse slithered closer, scales shifting from stress black to curious blue. "Explain." "Jazz," Hussein said. "Earth music built on improvisation. The AI was trained to recognize patterns, but true randomness, controlled chaos, confused it. This breakthrough became known as jazz tactics, and within months, every Alliance Earth vessel was training in the art of structured improvisation. But the approach sparked fierce debate. Once improvisation becomes doctrine, it loses unpredictability. Elder Morath argued during a tense council meeting. Commander Hesse nodded. Each officer must learn not just to break rules, but to understand them deeply first. As Mars Colony Alpha expanded, tensions between military necessity and civilian needs created new challenges. Water purification took precedence over comfort. Defense arrays consumed resources that settlers believed should go to agriculture. "They're putting guns before butter," complained a Martian township leader during a public forum. "We didn't come here to starve in safety." Hussein, now assigned to Mars Defense Coordination, faced these criticisms daily. He understood their frustration. The massive defense platforms orbiting Mars cast literal shadows over the settlement domes. But he also knew what the colonists didn't. The ascendancy was coming, and Mars would be their first target. Dr. Maya Tira arrived on Mars in 2038, bringing with her the second-generation neural enhancement program. Unlike the first crude implants, these integrated seamlessly with human neurology, promising greater tactical processing with fewer side effects. "You should volunteer," she told Hussein during a rare quiet dinner in the main colony dome. "Your natural abilities combined with a new interface would be extraordinary." Hussein stared at his plate. "I've heard rumors about the first-gen implants. People hearing tactical code in their sleep. Dissociative episodes." Maya set down her fork. "Isolated incidents, carefully monitored. Is it worth it, becoming less human to save humanity?" She met his gaze directly. "The ascendancy is humanity too, a version that chose conquest over cooperation. The question isn't whether we remain human, Hussein. It's what kind of humans we choose to be." A week later, he volunteered. The procedure took 6 hours, and when Hussein awoke, the world seemed sharper. Data flowed through his consciousness like water: ship positions, tactical probabilities, resource allocations. For weeks, he withdrew from colleagues, learning to control the flood of information. Commander Hesse noticed his scales dimming in color when Hussein passed in the corridors. When he finally emerged from self-imposed isolation, she requested a private meeting. "Your mind has changed," she observed. "But has your heart?" Hussein considered the question carefully. "I'm still me, just more. I can see patterns I couldn't before, but I still feel fear, hope, determination." "Good," Hesse replied. "Because the ascendancy has been detected at the edge of our system. The war begins now." In early 2040, the first ascendancy scout ships appeared near Neptune, sleek, predatory vessels with energy signatures that fluctuated oddly. Alliance scientists identified the phenomenon, dimensional breach technology, allowing ships to slip between parallel universes. Earth's governments, after a decade of preparation, activated the Unified Earth Defense Force. The Moon and Mars bristled with weapons and shields derived from Alliance technology, and in orbit around Mars, the joint Earth-Alliance combat fleet assembled, 47 ships of various designs, crewed by humans and Alliance species working in unprecedented harmony. Admiral Hussein Ibarra, now 40 years old and fully integrated with third-generation neural tech, commanded from the flagship Resilience. Through his enhanced perception, he monitored every vessel simultaneously, feeling their positions like extensions of his own body. "Dimensional breach detected," announced the sensor officer. 47 Ascendancy capital ships emerging at the edge of Mars's orbital cloud. Hussein's enhanced mind processed the threat instantly. Operation Firebreak is now active. All vessels form defensive semicircle around Phobos and Deimos. Shield generators at maximum. The Ascendancy struck with brutal efficiency. Laser bombardment targeted Colony Alpha's life support systems. Within minutes, habitats fractured. Ice clouds boiled into vacuum. Emergency protocols activated. But the attack had been calculated to maximize civilian casualties. From the resilience, Hussein watched in horror as the settlement's life signs winked out. 2 million human colonists and 8 billion Prelian refugees caught in the crossfire. Enemy adapting to our shield configuration, reported Commander Hesse, now Hussein's second-in-command. They're using classical alliance formations. They've studied our tactics. Hussein nodded grimly. So they expect us to counter with jazz tactics. Let's surprise them. All vessels, revert to rigid formation. Classical alliance defense pattern, Sigma 9. Across the fleet, officers exchanged confused glances, but obeyed. The joint fleet fell into perfect geometric formations, exactly the predictable patterns they had spent years learning to avoid. The Ascendancy fleet, momentarily confused by this apparent regression, hesitated. Then, as Hussein had predicted, they committed heavily. 72% of their forces poured through the dimensional breach, expecting to overwhelm the seemingly conventional defense. They've taken the bait, Hussein whispered. Tracking array online. Target the breach itself. A specialized vessel, developed jointly by Alliance scientists and Earth engineers, moved into position. Its sole purpose, to destabilize dimensional breaches by amplifying quantum fluctuations. Breach destabilizing in 30 seconds, reported the tracking officer. Enemy forces committed. Hussein closed his eyes, feeling the positions of every ship through his neural interface. All vessels, prepare for synchronized jazz pattern attack. Execute on my mark. As the breach began to collapse, Hussein gave the command. The entire Earth Alliance fleet exploded into chaotic, unpredictable vectors. Each ship following improvisational patterns that confused Ascendancy targeting systems. The breach snapped shut with a silent flash that nonetheless registered on every sensor. Ascendancy capital ships found themselves cut off from reinforcement, pinned between Allied defenders and collapsing space. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never again in doubt. By the time Mars's twin moons had completed half an orbit, the Ascendancy forces had either been destroyed or retreated through emergency micro-breaches. The victory came at staggering cost. 30,000 human colonists dead, 9 Alliance warships lost, billions of Prelian refugees displaced. Mars Colony Alpha lay in ruins, but Mars itself had been saved. In the aftermath, as rescue operations continued and the wounded filled every available medical bay, Hussein stood alone in his quarters. His neural interface buzzed with casualty reports, resource allocations, repair schedules. Behind all the data, a single question burned. Who were these parallel humans who could inflict such horrors on their counterparts? The years that followed saw a gradual rebuilding of Mars and a strengthening of Earth's defenses. More importantly, the battle for Mars had proven that the Ascendancy could be defeated. The joint forces had captured several intact Ascendancy vessels, allowing Alliance and Earth scientists to study their dimensional breach technology. By 2060, preparations were complete for a counteroffensive, an expedition into Ascendancy space itself. Admiral Hussein Abara, now 50 years old, but physically preserved by Alliance medical technology, would lead the mission aboard the enhanced flagship Resilience. Our objective, he told the assembled fleet commanders, is not genocide, but containment. We will disable their shipyards, sabotage their dimensional technology, and force a surrender. The expedition launched in late 2060, 50 ships strong, through an artificially generated breach. They emerged in orbit around an Earth-like planet, or what had once been Earth-like. Its surface was gray with industrial pollution. Massive strip mines scarred entire continents. Orbital factories ringed the planet like a metallic disease. Emporion, Commander Hesse identified from Alliance intelligence. The Ascendancy's home system, their Earth Prime. Initial engagements proved successful. The expedition's jazz tactics confounded Ascendancy defenses, allowing surgical strikes against key installations. But as they pushed deeper into ascendancy territory, they encountered unexpected resistance, not just military, but civilian. "They're sacrificing their own people to slow us down," reported one of Hussein's captains, after a particularly brutal engagement. Placing civilian habitats as shields around military targets. Hussein's enhanced mind processed this information with growing disquiet. The Ascendancy's tactics suggested not just aggression, but desperation. Something beyond mere conquest was driving them. In 2070, an opportunity arose. Intelligence from captured communications suggested that the Ascendancy's supreme commander, Jal, would be aboard his flagship Dominance in orbit around Earth Prime. Hussein proposed a parley. "It's too dangerous," Elder Morath argued during the War Council. "They've never shown interest in negotiation." "Because we've never asked," Hussein countered. "We need to understand why they fight this way. There's something we're missing." The meeting took place aboard a neutral vessel positioned between the Resilience and the Dominance. Hussein entered alone, unarmed, save for his neural implant. Supreme Commander Jal awaited him, a mirror of humanity, yet different. His uniform was severe, black with silver accents, his posture rigid with pride or fear. "You wish to speak," Jal began, his voice cold. "Speak." "Why this war?" Hussein asked simply. "Why conquest on such a scale? You're human, as we are. What drives you to such extremes?" For a long moment, Jal remained silent. Then, with careful precision, he activated a holographic display showing a series of complex equations and astronomical data. "Our universe is dying," he said at last. "Accelerated entropy. In 500 years, our reality will be uninhabitable unless we harvest resources from parallel dimensions." Hussein studied the data, his enhanced mind confirming the calculations. "You're destroying worlds to save your own." "We're ensuring our survival," Jal corrected. "It's regrettable, but necessary." "No," Hussein countered. "It's a false choice. The Alliance has dimensional stabilization technology that could halt your universe's decay. We can help you, in exchange for peace." Jal's expression betrayed momentary shock before hardening again. "Why would you help those who have killed millions of your people?" "Because that's the difference between us," Hussein replied. "You see only zero-sum games. We believe in finding solutions where everyone survives." The parley ended without formal agreement, but a seed had been planted. As Hussein returned to the Resilience, his neural interface alerted him to an unexpected transmission, originating from the surface of Earth Prime. The message came from representatives of the Ascendancy's lower castes, humans deemed genetically inferior by the ruling hierarchy. Forced into labor camps and denied advanced technology, they offered critical intelligence in exchange for alliance. "The Ascendancy isn't monolithic," Hussein reported to his war council. "There's an underground resistance, people who oppose Jal's methods." With this new intelligence, the expedition launched coordinated strikes against the Ascendancy's dimensional research facilities and shipyards. Unlike previous engagements, these attacks were surgical, disabling infrastructure while minimizing casualties. The Ascendancy's central AI tried to counter, but the unpredictable combination of human jazz tactics and Alliance precision made defense impossible. Within months, the Ascendancy's offensive capability had been crippled. Supreme Commander Jal requested another parley. "Your terms," he said without preamble when they met again. Hussein laid them out clearly. "Dismantle the Ascendancy hierarchy. Establish a transitional council comprising Earth, Alliance, and reformed Ascendancy representatives. Accept Alliance dimensional stabilization technology to halt your universe's decay, and agree to joint reconstruction programs." Jal's jaw tightened. "You ask me to surrender everything we've built. I'm asking you to build something better." Hussein countered, "Your people are suffering, not just from entropy, but from your own policies. I've seen the refugee camps, the labor colonies. Is this the civilization you're fighting to preserve? Their discussion lasted hours, ranging from technical specifications to philosophical debates about governance. In the end, Jal agreed to present these terms to what remained of his fractured council. The final confrontation came in 2099. A desperate faction of ascendancy hardliners, refusing to accept the peace negotiations, launched a last-ditch attack on the expedition fleet. The battle raged around Earth Prime, with rebel cells on the planet's surface disabling orbital defense platforms from within. As the Ascendancy's support vessels faltered under coordinated Stravinsky 4 jazz vectors, broadcast from the planet's surface showed starving children planting saplings in poisoned soil, a symbolic gesture arranged by the resistance to demoralize Jal's commanders. The strategy worked. Faced with the sorrow of his own people's suffering and severely outmatched militarily, Supreme Commander Jal ordered all Ascendancy forces to stand down. The war that had spanned galaxies and claimed billions of lives was over. The peace terms were implemented gradually. The Ascendancy hierarchy was dismantled, replaced by a transitional council. Alliance dimensional stabilization technology was deployed throughout the Ascendancy universe, halting the accelerated entropy. And joint reconstruction teams, comprising Earth scientists, Alliance engineers, and reformed Ascendancy citizens, began the long process of rehabilitating devastated worlds. By 2110, Unity Station orbited Earth Prime, a sprawling habitat where humans from all three civilizations studied together. On the planet's surface, once scarred by industrial collapse, tree planting ceremonies became a regular tradition. Children from Terra, Scalin Prime, and Emporion working side by side to restore life to toxic soil. Elder Morath, now aged 380 by Taurian years, often visited these ceremonies. On one such occasion, he found Dr. Maya Tira, now 110 but preserved by Alliance medicine, admiring vines creeping over hollowed industrial skiffs. "You were right," he admitted, his bark-like skin rippling with the emotion of concession. "Humanity's rapid adaptation was necessary, even if it seemed reckless to me." Maya smiled. "And you were right that we needed to preserve what makes us human. Our empathy proved as important as our technology." From the observation deck above, Admiral Hussein Ibarra, now 85, watched the scene with quiet satisfaction. His neural interface still processed data constantly, atmospheric composition improving by 0.03% this month, solar conversion efficiency up 2.1%, water toxicity down 7.8%. But beyond the numbers, he saw the truth with his enhanced but still human eyes. Three civilizations that had nearly destroyed each other were now building something greater together. The dimensional breaches that had once brought terror now carried aid and knowledge between universes. A small child, part of the Earth Prime reconstruction team, approached Hussein with wide eyes. "Are you him? The one who made the peace?" Hussein knelt to the child's level. "Peace isn't made by one person. It's built by many, choosing cooperation over conquest, day after day." The child considered this, then asked, "But weren't you afraid when the ships came?" "Courage," Hussein replied, "is acknowledging fear but not letting it rule you. Yes, I was afraid. We all were. But we found something stronger than fear." "What was it?" Hussein smiled, watching as Earth Prime's atmosphere began to clear, revealing the first glimpse of blue sky in generations. "Hope," he said simply. "And the understanding that survival doesn't have to come at someone else's expense." As he spoke, light broke through the clouds, not the harsh glare of laser bombardment or the eerie pulse of dimensional breaches, but genuine sunlight, warm and healing, reaching Earth Prime for the first time in centuries. In the distance, Ambassador Kaio's blue-black feathers caught the light as he addressed a group of mixed-species children. Commander Hess's scales glittered as she demonstrated Alliance terraforming techniques to former Ascendancy engineers. And General Nisha Cortez, now a respected diplomat, negotiated trade agreements between worlds that had once aimed weapons at each other. Hussein's neural interface pinged with a notification. The next generation of dimensional stabilizers was ready for testing. The technology would not only halt entropy in the Ascendancy universe, but potentially reverse some of the damage. As he prepared to review the specifications, Hussein paused to watch a group of children, human, Alliance, and Ascendancy, playing together beneath the newly planted trees. Their laughter carried across the reconstructed plaza, a sound that no tactical algorithm could have predicted from the desperate days when 17 massive ships appeared in Earth's sky. The Deathworld Alliance had survived, not by conquest or isolation, but by finding strength in unlikely places. Earth, once considered too fractured to defend itself, had provided the strategic innovation that turned the tide. The Alliance, with its millennia of accumulated wisdom, had offered the technological foundation for victory, and even the Ascendancy, once bent on galaxy-wide destruction, now contributed to a peace that would span universes. Hussein turned away from the viewport, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. His neural enhancements processed probabilities and tracked resources. But his human heart held something no implant could provide: the certainty that together they had built something worth protecting. The fleet of colossal ships that had once hovered ominously above Earth now formed the backbone of an interstellar cooperative. Their lights, no longer war beacons, but guiding stars for a civilization that spanned dimensions. The desperate plea that had rippled across the galaxy had been answered not just with sanctuary, but with salvation for all three peoples. And the fragile planet that had once stood as the last bastion between extinction and survival now led the way toward a future where such choices would never again be necessary.